Okay, in geometry, we are starting a new unit. This one is on transformations, rigid transformations to be more specific. And we'll talk about what a rigid transformation is as we go on. But for today, we're going to focus only on the rigid transformation translation. So in a translation, sometimes you might see it called a slide, and that's because that's all it does. A shape slides to the side. And in fact, the word translation has an SL in it, and that's kind of an easy way to remember that it's a slide. So the original image is called the pre-image. That's the one that usually is given to you to begin with. And then after you slide it, it's called the image. So pre-image is there before, and then after we move it, after we slide it, it's now the image. So sometimes there are different ways to describe how we move it by using X and Y. So on the X-axis, if you move it +3, think about the X-axis. That's this one. So that would mean you would be moving it to the right 3 because it's adding 3. If it was subtracting 3, you'd move it to the left 3. And then on the Y-axis, that's the axis going up and down. If it's plus, you'd be moving it up, but this case it's minus, so you would be moving it down 2 units. So let's go ahead and look down at number 1. If we take the pre-image that's already here and we translate it 5 units right and 1 unit up, another way to say that is to say X plus 5 and Y plus 1. So you're going to take each point and you're going to move it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1. Now, I moved T. Once you move it, the image, this was the pre-image, remember, the image after you move it has a little dash by it, and that little dash is prime notation. That tells you if we didn't have any of this information, if we just had 2 pictures, then you can figure out which one was the pre-image and which one was the image, because the pre-image doesn't have, it just is the letters. But the image after you've moved it has this little, it's almost like an apostrophe or a number 1, and that is called prime notation. So you say this as T prime. So this one is T, and after you move it, it becomes T prime. So G gets moved 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 up 1, and now it becomes G prime. B gets moved, and it becomes B prime. And then you go ahead and connect the dots. Sometimes you will see it as with little dashes because it's the image after it's been moved, but I'm okay with you going ahead and just drawing in all of your lines. All right, number 2 is translation left 2, that's why it's X minus 2, and 6 up, that's why it's plus 6. So we're going to move each dot to the left 2 and up 6. And that is going to be J prime. It doesn't matter which one you start with. It just matters that you label them correctly. Now, I could keep going each dot and move it, or I could look and see that J is 1 below E, and J is 1 above E, so I need to put E prime just 1 below J. So it's going to make the same shape, and that is where the word rigid comes in. If it is a rigid transformation, that means the shape stays the exact same. Same shape, same size. It does not enlarge or shrink. It stays rigid, but it just moves in some way. So X looks like it's down 1 and to the right 2 from M. So I'm going to move it down 1 and to the right 2 and call it X prime. So again, rigid just means that your shape is going to look exactly the same. It's not enlarged or shrunk. Okay, I would like you guys to try numbers 3 and 4. So go ahead and push pause and try it yourself and see what you get. Okay, for the notation of down 3, that is not anything on the x-axis. X is left and right, so X is going to stay X, but Y is going to be subtracting 3. So then each of these just gets moved down 3 and becomes prime notation. And that is it. So again, you can do little dashes to connect them, or it can be full lines in. Okay, number 4, the notation for 4 units to the right would be X plus 4, and the notation for 4 units down would be Y minus 4. Now I did forget, it's probably better to say XY arrow, because what that's saying is my original one is XY, and then I moved it, I slid it in this pattern. So I probably should have said XY arrow. Sorry about that. XY arrow. Okay, so to the right 4, down 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So this one would be I prime. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. This one would be J prime. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Or I could have just looked and saw that it was just directly below it, and that would be my A prime. Okay, let's turn to the next page. So the next page is an enrichment activity that I want you to try on your own. There are several parts to this. It's actually a soccer field. So this soccer field is going to show all these different players and how the ball moves. And it's an enrichment activity I think you can handle. So go ahead and try this enrichment activity, and we will go through it together in class.